Thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. I'm Martine Collier. I'm the president and CEO of CultureWorks. We're pleased today to share some revealing research that CultureWorks has commissioned regarding the impact of the nonprofit arts and cultural sector to our community. We are embarking on a regional cultural planning process, and to start, we've done some initial research into the economic impact of the nonprofit cultural sector. This research is really just the tip of the iceberg. We've done it in a way to conform to national field standards, Americans for the Arts. I would like to say it's a conservative analysis, and there will probably be considerably more research that comes out of this process as it goes on. First of all, I want to introduce Richard Stock, the Director of Business Research Group of the University of Dayton, and Jane Darke, Associate Director for Urban and Public Affairs at Wright State University.
Essentially what we did was we wanted to do a study that would allow us to compare how our region is doing in nonprofit arts and cultures with other regions around the country. And there's wonderful work done by the Americans for the Arts with respect to economic impacts that allowed us to do that. They built an economic impact model based on regional impact input-output models that allowed them to get a very specific idea of the way in which the cultural sector, the nonprofit arts and cultural sector interacted with other sectors of the economy. So the multipliers that come out of that study are essentially what we're using. So what we did locally then was we went out and we looked at the Form 990s for 266 arts and cultural organizations. The amount of expenditures associated with the work of those 266 organizations and the spending by their audience is equivalent to around $161 million. Associated then with that is around a little under 4,900 jobs.
In addition to having our local talent involved in this, we felt a need to get sort of the 40,000 feet look at what we're doing, especially as we move forward in the cultural planning. WolfBrown is a firm that is well recognized nationally for their work in this regard. And I was fortunate enough in 2007, when I was the executive director of the Sarasota County Arts Council, to find a really friendly, helpful person at the end of the other phone line up in Boston, helping me struggle through a cultural district issue. And his name was Marc Goldring. So he is really a nationally recognized expert in this regard. So we have Marc involved helping us do the next steps in deciding what other research we need from Richard and Jane, what we need from the community. And he has been so successful in doing this with other communities, in a couple of cases with regional planning processes, much like what we're doing.
This research points out, I think, a lot of things that you folks probably knew intuitively, which is that you have a cultural sector that is larger, more robust, more mature than many communities of your scale, of your size. There's two strands to this. One is the fact-finding, the economic impact research that was just begun, the marketing research that was recently completed, other kinds of surveys and inventories, all of that sort of factual data that you need to have in order to speak intelligibly. I mean, you need to know what exists before you figure out what's missing. And the other strand, aside from fact-finding, is engagement, is community engagement through public meetings, through task forces, through steering committees, as a way to engage the larger community in an ongoing conversation that is informed by the fact-finding that we're doing, so that these two strands are kind of woven together. The purpose of the planning initiative is to make sure that we use community resources in the most effective way possible, and also to use the arts in support of community priorities, so that the arts are more completely woven into the fabric of everyone's everyday life.
I think the work that you're doing is really important. My question is, how does that get us a seat at the economic development discussions in town? You know, how does that bring arts and culture to the forefront as an economic driver in downtown Dayton and in the region?
My guess is that you are already more welcome than you might expect. I mean, I've seen in other communities conversations that begin as a result of the planning process when you come to developers, when you come to elected officials and say, the arts is a tremendous resource. What can we do to help you make your agenda work? The trend that I'm seeing that's really successful in planning is understanding that the community, the region has certain priorities, and arts and culture has a role to play in all of those priorities. And when economic development folks feel and understand and believe that you're there because you have a common interest with them and not because you're just trying to get some funding, I think you'll see even greater enthusiasm on their part.